Hey guys, this is Ron with Kimber Home Services. I wanted to take some time today to talk to you about what has become one of the most challenging parts of working on a home if you have anything like a hail claim or a water claim, and that is the insurance process. It's a very highly misunderstood process. There's a whole lot to it. And the way that I like to start off with any particular homeowner, even if you haven't filed insurance yet, is to sit down and go over exactly how this process works. I've been doing this, we've been doing this for a really long time, going on 2 decades now, and have had experience with thousands of insurance claims, no exaggeration. And I wanted to walk through how things are working these days and what you can expect. One of the first things I like to share with everybody is that the insurance process is going to be a little confusing. Well, it's not something that you would know. You don't do that every single day. If you're an accountant, a school teacher, any other, IT person, you don't deal with insurance. It has its own language, just like what you do has your own language. The insurance claims are based on software that we all use and off of estimating platforms, computer platforms that everybody in the industry, including the insurance company, uses. So the way we'd like to start the process, I'm going to assume that the person that I'm speaking with, in this case right now, has not called insurance yet, has not done anything towards the claim, and you've called me out for an inspection in order to come take a look at the property. So the first thing we would do is get up and do a full set of photographs, just like an insurance adjuster would. Take probably 40, 50 photographs, document the roof, the fence, the windows, the screens, siding, anything that could have been damaged, let's say in this case in a hailstorm. If you've got a water claim, which we've had a lot of those in the last several years, because of Snowmageddon, and then we've had freezes this past Christmas and the one previous. And my neighbor 3 doors down past Christmas, or Christmas before last, they had a water claim, and they were from Montana. And it was a faulty water line. My sister and brother-in-law just had one happen in this last freeze, and another one. It was a fractured water line, nothing that they did, and it caused another water claim. They're actually displaced right now, living in a VRBO. So that's a part of the process that you need to be aware of could happen if that's something that you're dealing with. So we come out and would take a look at the entire property as if I don't know anything about it. We just come out and do it fresh from the beginning. This is probably a really good thing if you have the opportunity to get someone that you trust that's in the industry, hopefully us, to come out and take a look before you file a claim. That way you don't have to go through that process if there isn't enough damage that would warrant going through the insurance claim process. You can avoid that stress and also have all those photographs, historical photographs, which we keep on the claims, and we do go out and look at a lot of stuff that does not need an insurance claim filed on it. We can do a repair, and in some cases it doesn't need anything. It's just somebody maybe knocked on the door and mentioned that maybe you have roof damage, excuse me, and that may or may not, be the case. So we want to establish, first of all and foremost, is there a legitimate reason to even pursue forward with an insurance claim, which again, we'll sit down, email you or text you a link to a cloud-based picture resource that we use called Company Cam, and it's just a link. You can save it eternally, put it in your email, and we all have that saved on the CRM at the office. So if we come back and talk to you 2 years from now, we all know what we looked at when we looked at it this time, which also helps with insurance, because if there's a disagreement or discrepancy between what they're saying and what we're saying, we have that historical photographic evidence in order to be able to compare notes with the insurance company and not get into any type of an argument without documentation or evidence. So we'll assume, for the sake of chatting about it today, that the property is damaged. Let's say it was like the hailstorm, big hailstorm in Plano this last May, where it was 3-inch hail, and every house that I looked at was definitely damaged. So we'll go with that assumption. Well, once we establish that the house is damaged and go over those pictures with you. The next step would be for you to decide when you're ready to file your insurance claim. You have 6 months in the state of Texas on most major insurance carriers from the time the hailstorm happens to go ahead and file that claim. You don't have to do it immediately. You're not responsible. If you're out of town to know the exact storm date, they'll know that. They have resources that allow them to pick up those storm dates and they'll know where things happened. Once you file that claim, which you must do yourself or your agent has to do for you, no contractor, no matter how much you know them, like them, has the legal right in the state of Texas to file an insurance claim on a homeowner's behalf. That is something that you would have to do yourself. Once that phone call is made, the insurance company will open a claim for you, and then your adjuster will be assigned to you. The adjuster is the person that comes out from the insurance carrier and does the assessment of your roof. In some cases, they send a data collection specialist if the adjusters are incredibly busy, which do the same job, which is collect all the pictures, all the photographs, and everything that gets turned into the insurance company. So someone will come out and do an independent assessment of your roof, windows, gutters, fence, and this again is assuming this is a hail claim. And then once they do that, they will make a determination. Sometimes they'll tell you why they're on location. Sometimes they have to turn that in to upper management, but they'll tell you what they're recommending most of the time. And they'll give you an idea of whether or not they feel the claim will be approved while they're at location. That can take anywhere from a couple days. If they email you paperwork, it could take, a couple weeks depending on how busy things are. Once you get your insurance paperwork, you're definitely going to want to call your contractor, and again, in this case, hopefully us, and first of all, sit down and go over that paperwork. That paperwork is written in an insurance estimating software called Xactimate. Xactimate prices are set by the Texas Department of Insurance for your regional area. DFW, Waco, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, for example, maybe Midland, Odessa. They all have different price structures that are inside of this software. So when we write an estimate ourselves, maybe we have to turn one into the insurance and they want us to write one first. We use the exact same estimating software that the insurance companies do. So we're all pulling from the same bank of pricing, and that changes on a month-to-month basis. Prices rise and fall. And so whenever we write one, that will be in the same language that the insurance company understands, written off of the same roof reports or any other data that we collect. All of those are done off of a web-based system so that everybody's pulling from the same resources. As long as the documented damage from insurance matches the damage that we feel the homeowner has a right to, then those estimates should be extremely close in price. They should. Again, we're all pulling from the same resources. In the old days, where I come from, people did hand measurements and everything else. We didn't have estimating software, so it was a much more difficult job and a much slower job. Nowadays, it can move much faster, and there's much less discussion on, scope of work, which means all the items that will be paid for by the insurance company. Once your insurance paperwork comes in and we sit down, I'll walk you through the entire thing. Again, if it's not your business and not your industry, it's going to can very easily be very confusing. So each line item for every single piece of the roof, every single piece of the guttering, the windows, the number of screens, if you have broken windows, the square footage of the fence, if they're going to pay for that to be power washed and stained, the square footage of maybe damaged siding and how much they're going to pay of that, and paint. All of that is listed in very detailed, itemized amounts. So we'll need to sit down and go over that in detail. The best way I like to do that is to take your insurance paperwork, walk outside and start on the outside of the house. We'll walk around together and go through every single item. A lot of times I've looked at it a few minutes before we do that, so I have an idea if we're potentially missing something. But we can do as much or as little of that process as you like. Some people are not that interested in going through every single detail. They just want to know everything's been covered. Other people, like myself, are very detail oriented and want to go through every single line item. We can do it either way. Once we've established and have an understanding there that we are on the same page of understanding as far as the scope of work on the property, the next page I like to deal with is the money page. That's what everybody's interested in. Well, how much money am I getting? When am I going to get it? Those type of things. Insurance works in 2 payments. I'm not going to try to get too confusing about this, but let's just assume that your full replacement cost value, which is full coverage insurance, on a particular project, let's say it's $30,000. It's never going to be an even number, but use this for example. And you have a $5,000 deductible. Well, after they take that off, that means that from the insurance company, you'll be receiving a total of funds from them of $25,000. That is broken into 2 pieces. They rarely ever give that money up front because they want to give just enough to get the project going, make sure that the work gets done, that the contractor takes responsibility for it, and that they know everything's been completed. Then they'll release the remaining portion. That could be 50% of that $25,000. It all depends on the age of the roof and the age of the property since it was last replaced. The older it is, the more money they hold back. You'll have to ask your particular agent or insurance carrier what their equation is for that, but at the end of the day, those checks should still add up to $25,000 when the project is completed. The way that's done is when we're finished, the final invoice is filed by the contractor, in this case us, and it will release whatever money is still remaining. All right, that's called your recoverable depreciation. All right, that will total the $25,000. In theory, the homeowner's responsible for the $5,000 deductible, and the claim should be $30,000. By Texas law, unless the homeowner chooses to upgrade or add work, painting, anything, build a new fence and they're only paying for staining, upgrade to double pane windows, anything like that. If all we do is replace the items as the insurance company has paid for them, which they're responsible to pay for like, kind, and quality, which means whatever you have on your house, it doesn't matter if it was done 12 years ago. If it's damaged, they're responsible to pay for the exact same quality to be replaced on your house at whatever the current price is. That's what's called replacement cost value, not the original cost value. That would be very expensive if your roof was 15 years old and now they would only pay for what you paid for 15 years ago. The vast majority of homeowners have replacement cost value insurance. So they would pay for all of that. As long as no additions were requested, like a class 4 impact resistant shingle or something of that nature, or, and as I mentioned, painting the house, which we do a lot of times as part of the project, that's all you can legally be responsible for is the amount of the claim and your deductible, unless you choose to ask for additional work. Being a general contractor, we can do just about anything. We can do roof, gutters, windows, screens, siding, paint, that's interior, exterior, texture, drywall. Any of the things that could happen on an insurance claim, we can take care of. Fence repair, fence staining. We even have a brick mason for doing brick masonry repair. A master electrician that can take care of broken light fixtures, replacing new stuff like that, taking out or installing solar fans. We have the electrician and the plumbers for anything else that might happen. That all would be above and beyond the claim, but those are just some additional side items to mention right now. Once we go through all of that and we've come to an agreement that you're ready to go forward with the claim, we'll put an agreement in place, which you authorize. And once we get that going, what we normally would do is begin to schedule out the work. We make material choices, shingles, paint, whatever it is that you would like to do. And then once we get ready to order materials, we request that the first payment that's come from insurance and any additional funds of the deductible that the homeowner has, we'd like to get that up front to help offset our cost And we will wait on that second check from insurance to be released. And in some cases, that could be over half of the job. So that initial down payment sometimes doesn't even come anywhere close to covering our cost. But just so that we can operate on good faith, we don't request any additional funds beyond that. Depending on the special cases, maybe a 50% down. It just depends if we've gotten non-returnable material. All that stuff we'll discuss long ahead of time before there would be any signatures, authorizations on any agreements. All of that stuff gets done ahead of time. We don't do contingency agreements, meaning that we need you to sign anything with us in order for us to do any work on your behalf. What I mean by that is that in the last several years, as all of you know, if you're a homeowner, your homeowner's insurance has gone up considerably. Your auto insurance, the same. The insurance process has been, frankly, much more difficult than it used to be. There's a lot more claims, a lot more people, and a lot more volume that the insurance companies are handling. There can be human error on the insurance claims. There could be a discrepancy on what is covered under your policy. Each person's policy is different. Some policies have metal exclusions, which don't cover metal roofs. They don't cover the gutters. They don't cover venting. Those things are out there, and that helps to know what your policy covers and what it doesn't. Out there right now, there's some very large deductibles in the 2% range, and some even 3%. We've seen deductibles as high as $12,000 and $13,000. Obviously, that's stuff that we're going to discuss long before we would get ready to move forward on the project and work out those terms and conditions. Once we get an agreement in place, then we immediately begin to schedule the work. In some cases, there might be 5 or 6 different trades that we need to do. Our staff will lay out a plan of action that you will be fully aware of. You can know as much about every single aspect of this step, of all these steps of the process, as you want to. Some people just want to know that they can trust us to do the work and just let them know when the people are showing up. And some people want to know every single aspect of every single piece of the project and stand in the yard and even climb on the roof with us, which, by the way, our insurance doesn't cover, or if you want to do that. But we'll do as much or as little informing as you would like us to do. We try to get the projects done in an extremely timely manner. What I mean by that is we don't want to do the roof and then wait a week to do anything else. We try to line it up to where we get things moving forward as quickly as possible. The roof usually happens first. The gutters go last, for example, and all the other trades happen in the middle of that as we can line up each team to do that and as the weather permits. Even in our largest projects where we have roof, gutters, screens, broken windows, maybe broken light fixtures, we need to paint, the house, or we need to rebuild the chimney because of hail damage, and we have to do fence repair and fence stain. Once we get moving on that, a project shouldn't still even then take more than about 2 weeks, unless we run into a significant amount of bad weather, which we usually have a warning that that's coming. After we work through that entire process of rebuilding the property, and when we're finally done and you as the homeowner sign off that you're happy, we'll file the final invoice with insurance. And so once we do that and we file all work completed, please release homeowner recoverable depreciation. That will trigger, once the insurance company receives that, the release of that last check. That can take anywhere, again, from a couple days. State Farm a lot of times does direct deposit. A couple other of the major carriers do that. Some carriers issue checks that could take weeks. And so we never know when that's going to come in. Once that check arrives, that would make up our last payment. And again, like I said, sometimes that check can be very sizable. So we are more than willing to sit and wait for that because we realize that's a large amount of money, and that's from the insurance company anyway. Speaking of checks, I just thought of something that's worth mentioning. Most everybody has a mortgage on their home. It is very possible that your mortgage company can be listed as an additional payee on your insurance checks. If that is the case, there is a whole other process we have to go through that is unique to each individual mortgage company. Some send us packets, vendor packets, where we have to have things notarized, signed off, things of that nature, provide, insurance, our insurance, that type of thing. There's a complete, and some people can walk into Chase or Bank of America and just have that check countersigned. We have had that process take as much as 2 or 3 months, or take as much as one day. Again, that's stuff that we would know ahead of time, because we would need to get that initial check endorsed and cleared for us to go ahead and at least get the first deposit on the project. But that's another situation that could very easily occur that could add time to this process. In the best of scenarios, if everything moves quickly and there's not a mortgage company that delays things on the checks, and the weather's good and all the trades line up, from start to finish, from our very first visit to the time we finish a project, could be done in as little as a month. If we have to work with insurance and go back and forth with them and deal with a mortgage company, which we have often, just due to the speed of mail and the speed of bureaucracy of companies and things of that nature, that could take as long as 3 or 4 months. We have to be eternally patient, and when we're in that type of situation, you will know that, and we will all have a time expectation as to what it's going to take. We can usually communicate with the mortgage company, and they'll say, yeah, we need you to mail it. It's going to take X amount of time. So we all know those things, and we plan around that, but that's something else that you need to be aware of.